Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our Fireside chat with someone who may seem familiar to you, familiar to me, of course, and a great friend of Poets and Quants, Bipin Prabhakar, who is the chairman of the Information Systems graduate programs at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. Bipin, welcome.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to be chatting with you.
And good to see you. And you're looking fine these days. I don't know what you're doing. Are you going to the gym a lot or what?
I think my doctor tells me that the COVID-19 diet of not eating out much is actually good for health.
You can control your diet a lot more.
Yes.
When you cook in your own home. It's really true.
That and the lack of travel, right? It's the traveling that usually gets you, and I'm sure you know that.
So there are many gems in the graduate portfolio of programs at the Kelley School. One of the true gems is the MSIS program. Tell us a little about it.
So the MSIS program, from a historical perspective, was launched right smack in the middle of the dot-com bust. So at that point, the school was looking at a market where we recognized that the role of technology in business was changing and that the industry would require a different breed of what we at that point termed business technologists to help create business value. And so we are one of the longest running MS in Information Systems programs. There have been a lot of programs that have come up in the last few years, but it's interesting that we almost came up from the ashes of the dot-com bust, the same time that companies such as Amazon and Google were founded, and many others, didn't make it out of there.
So you wonder, was that fortuitous timing or not? Because in a way, I bet you it informed how you designed the program.
It was not exactly serendipity, because we had seen that our undergraduate program and the interest in information systems was somewhat going down with everything that was being reported by the media and what was happening around them. And one of the key elements there was that a lot of the work was getting outsourced, which meant that suddenly the entry-level job in the United States changed to something that required a significantly higher level of depth than could be done in an undergraduate program. So it was really something that was designed, and we've kept that principle up in the last 20 years.
Now, I wonder why you still call it an MS in Information Systems, because in many ways, Information Systems doesn't totally describe the breadth and the depth of the program, right?
That is true, but to us, information systems is actually the broadest concept. You could say that business analytics, at least the technology side of business analytics, is very much a part of information systems because that's what enables analytics. All the talk that you're hearing about digital transformation, again, is enabled by information systems and information technologies. And of course, cybersecurity and risk management has always been a cornerstone of anything that you do with technology. So we've really not even considered changing the name, because information systems to us captures the wide gamut of all the different ways in which technology can actually have a huge impact on the way business is done and a huge impact on the way that companies actually interact with their stakeholders.
And what kind of level of demand are you seeing for the program now?
Well, the demand is through the roof. As you can imagine, one of the things that the pandemic has underscored is how much businesses are dependent on technology, not just as a driver, but as a strategic differentiator. So we are seeing everything that I'm hearing from our corporate partners this year points to a very good, strong demand. Actually, demand, I'm almost predicting a demand of a type we have not seen in the last few years.
Wow. Can you put some numbers around that? Give us some context.
So this year, we expect to graduate about 140 students. And from the employer side, in a typical year, about 5-6 employers end up hiring about 50-60% of our graduates. Which is both the good news and the bad news, right? Somebody who does a little bit of risk, I'm looking at this saying, maybe I need to diversify. But our employers come back to us because of the talent that we produce, and we are able to do this consistently year over year. So it's too early in the cycle to give you a specific number in terms of classes. We are now in week 4 of the fall semester, and recruiting is going to start up for real in about 2 or 3 weeks when the interviews start. But all of my preliminary conversations with our employers, they're all saying our numbers are up. That's the phrase that I'm hearing.
And are you seeing particularly strong demand from certain regions of the world or countries?
So the demand is primarily in the US, right? For us, now, when you look at the demand on the student side, there is a lot of interest in students from India, in particular, given that India is the largest IT services provider to the rest of the world, if you will. So there is a lot of interest from students who are in India, but we are also seeing a lot of interest from our domestic students who are in undergraduate business programs. And interestingly enough, one of the most common things that I hear during an interview, let's say with an accounting major or with a finance major or a marketing major, when I talk to them in the fall semester of the senior year and ask them, why do you want to do information systems? A very common answer is, I just interned at this big firm and I worked in my business function and I realized how much more I need to know about tech to be able to be a leader in this space moving forward. So a lot of our students combine their undergraduate education with an MSIS degree, and what I sell to our employers is that combination, right? Here is somebody who has an in-depth undergraduate training in marketing, but they also have a lot of depth in information systems and can help you think about how technology can create new value for the marketing function.
Right. I mean, there's nothing that technology doesn't impact. And I would imagine that top on the priority list of every CEO of every organization in the world is how to digitize and take advantage of new trends in technology. No doubt about it.
Yes.
So in terms of your class profile, what's the average age of the student? How much work experience do they have? Do they tend to be engineers who come into this program because it's quite technical?
That's an interesting question. So the average age is probably about 23, right? And that's because most of our students are in the 5th year of a combined master's undergraduate program. Although it's not a unified program, they'll apply to the master's program sometime during their undergraduate career. So it is not heavily engineering. It is actually a combination of business students. They are still our single largest group. Then we have informatics, information technology, computer science forms the other group. And then we will get other engineering, like your mechanical engineers, we'll get a smattering of those. But for the most part, if you look at the 2 big groups that we have, it's business majors, including information systems majors. About half the business majors are information systems majors, but we also get a lot of informatics, information technology, computer science students.
So it's primarily a pre-experience, as we call it in academic terms,
Yes.
program for those who come direct from undergraduate to get a graduate degree.
I term it as an early career graduate degree.
Right.
And a lot of our students recognize that in the long run, they should get a graduate degree at some point in their career. And it makes a lot of sense given that the opportunity cost of getting a master's degree is the cheapest right after you graduate from undergrad. It actually makes a lot of financial sense and a lot of career sense to just get this out of the way, hit the ground running.
True, absolutely. Now, give us a sense of what you learn in the program. It's 1 year long, right?
For some students who come from a very different background than what I just described, and the business and engineering background or the business and computer science background, we do offer an extended program that could last 1.5 years or even a full 2 years. And the difference there would be the internship experience. So our typical student would graduate from undergrad, intern that summer, come into the program, and actually they'd be done in 2 semesters. It's actually slightly less than a year. So about 70% of our students pursue that accelerated path. The others are the ones that would go into an internship and stretch their program out. So mostly students who are international students or students that come from English or journalism or music, who need a little bit more time to actually put some of the things that they're learning into the classroom into practice. Now, in terms of...
Yeah, I'm sorry. And this is a face-to-face program.
It is a face-to-face in-residence program.
Right. So you get to sit with your classmates in a classroom with a professor, which is a great experience.
So it is an in-residence cohort-based experience. In the fall, if you are very familiar with all of Kelley's programs, the core is something that permeates everything. And in the MSIS program, we have what is called an information systems core, which we took the principles of I-Core from an undergrad and then took it to a whole another level. So we have 12 different modules as well as an integrated project that the students do in the fall semester. So in terms of topics, it ranges from IT strategy and IT project management, which are more of the strategic managing of technology topics, to data and systems, understanding how systems are built, IT architecture, cloud computing, agile, robotic process automation, enterprise systems. We also have a module called collaboration, teamwork, and ethics, where they learn organizational leadership. We have a very large number of team-based projects and exercises that they have to do. One of our students actually counted, and the number actually shocked me. Apparently, we have as many as 39 team deliverables in the fall semester.
Wow. So very heavy on learning team dynamics and getting the best out of other people.
And as you know, businesses, and particularly technology in businesses, is driven by teams, and you have to understand how to deliver as a team.
Now, talk a little bit about the benefits of specialization versus a more general business degree, because I'm sure that there are many people who are making this decision to come to your program and weighing it against, oh, should I get a master's in management, or should I get some other kind of degree that's a little more general?
That's a great question. I think that's something that a lot of students actually think about, although they're not necessarily looking at a master's in a specialized, master's. By definition, to me, needs to have a focus. So we typically get cross-shopped against the traditional MBA, where somebody says, I'm going to graduate, work for 3, 4, 5 years, and come back to a full-time MBA program versus getting a specialized master's now. And the one thing that I always stress to the students is that a specialized master's, particularly in information systems, does not take away the opportunity to do a traditional full-time MBA if they want to do that down the road. If they feel that they want to pivot much more into the mainstream business disciplines, they can definitely do that. Although from a data standpoint, very few of our students actually pursue that option. However, what we see is students want to specialize up front so that they can go in, they can hit the ground running, they can make an immediate difference to a business. And we have developed a dual degree program with our Kelley Direct online MBA, which has proved to be very popular. So the students who feel that they want to broaden their business credentials and actually get an MBA, they have the opportunity to pursue the #1 ranked Kelley Direct online MBA and add that to their credential set as well.
And I'm imagining that the employment prospects for graduates of the program are quite good.
Well, they're exceptional.
What's your employment rate within, I forget if you use 3 months or 6 months of graduate?
So we typically try to hold ourselves to an even stringent standard, which is on the day of graduation, although officially we report 90 days out. So 90 days out, we have been somewhere in the 95, 97% rate for the last several years. On the day of graduation, we are typically in the 92, 93%.
Wow, that's amazing. And what's the average compensation package for a graduate?
So the average compensation package is about $85,000. That includes a signing bonus or guaranteed compensation. Now, the real value proposition that our students recognize is not that they're going to get necessarily a much higher starting package compared to somebody coming out of undergrad, because at the end of the day, as you mentioned, they are pre-experienced students, right? They don't have any work experience, so they have an additional year of study, and that gets them a little bit of a bonus. But the real value proposition for them is the career acceleration, because when they get out and start working, they're not just working off of a broad foundation of an undergraduate degree, but they've actually been trained to do the job function where they are part of a team and they need to deliver. So the goal is to actually go in, hit the ground running, and you've heard me use that term now 2 or 3 times, right? And then be part of that early promotion cycle every time the promotion cycle comes around. So the true value, if you were to project out the career and look at where our alums are 10 years from now, that's where you see a dramatic difference in how they have performed.
Right. What do you think employers most appreciate about the graduates from Kelley of this program?
So it's something that I actually ask the employers, right? You know, what difference do you see in students from the MSIS program compared to our own undergrads, for example? And as you know, we have a fabulous portfolio of programs. So the one word that all of our employers typically use to describe MSIS students is confidence. They are well trained, and they have the confidence to actually make decisions, to actually make recommendations right off the bat.
Confidence is a big deal, and confidence is the right word, not cockiness.
Not cockiness, yes, absolutely. We actually make sure that, you know, as part of our training, you know, sometimes, of course, as you know, and Dean Kessner mentions this all the time, that, you know, for our students, the faculty are their harshest critics. And we tell them, we want you to face that criticism in this friendly, closed atmosphere, so that when you get out in the real world, you know, you are not going to make the same kind of mistakes.
Now, Bipin, pretend that I'm a young person again in my 20s and I want to go to your program. Do I have to learn how to code?
So you will need to learn how to code. However, you don't need to know how to code in order to come into the program. So if you look at information systems, coding, understanding computer networks, understanding computer architecture, understanding the internet, understanding a lot of the technologies that underpin what we see around us all the time is an important prerequisite. So we actually define all the topics that are taught in a typical undergraduate information systems as a prerequisite. For students who don't meet that prerequisite requirement, we offer a summer bridge program that we call Jumpstart. So it's a 12-week boot camp that teaches the basics of programming, IT infrastructure. We do data modeling, systems design, and then we also do a boot camp in business for students who don't have a business background. So if you think about a business minor condensed down to about 4 weeks and taught by some of our superstar faculty, right? That's what we would put a student through if they don't have the requisite background.
So I definitely would be in both boot camps.
Yes, you would be in both boot camps.
Now, Bipin, how has COVID-19 impacted the school and the curriculum?
COVID-19 has been a big challenge, right? Particularly a program like ours that is in residence, very high touch, high level of faculty and student interaction. So last year, we were fortunate enough that we were able to do a hybrid program where we actually had in-person classes every day. So we broke up our classroom experience into an online component and an in-person rich interactive experience. So all the students were online in the morning. So we were to look at it from a conceptual standpoint. We taught them all of the theory in the morning, and the case discussions, the practice, the tutorials were all done in the classroom with the professor in the afternoon.
Wow.
So being a small program gave us the flexibility to do that.
Right. Now, I know that a lot of international students had trouble getting to the US last year, given travel restrictions and student visa problems. Has that ironed itself out?
I think, last year, probably the best decision that we made was to tell our international students that they should wait a year to come. Because I was looking at how things were shaping out, and I quickly came to the conclusion that it would really not be possible to give them the rich experience that the international students need. So we just said, wait for a year, we'll bring you in. So we asked all of them to defer their admission that were not currently in the US. This year, all of our students have been able to join us. And they were actually all were able to join us on time. It was touch and go for a while because we start them in the middle part of the summer, and we have a lot of students from India. And as you know, COVID-19 really was raging in India at that time. So we had some delays, but our faculty were nimble enough to adapt, and we had about a 1 week delay. But that really did not set us back at all. We were able to bring everybody on, and they're all here, and they're fully integrated and in classes.
Now, if I had the opportunity to go out with some of your students for a drink at a bar, and I asked them what they most enjoy about the program, what would they tell me?
It's usually the teammates. It's that team experience, the classroom experience, and the fact that, as you know, you've been to Bloomington, we are the quintessential campus town. And one of the advantages of being in a campus town is that you really have a lot of time to bond with your peer group and with your faculty, because we essentially, all of us live in this town, and then I can't go to the grocery store without running into students. And if you were at a bar with the students, you'll probably see some of the faculty there as well. But it's that rich connection that they build with each other, with their teammates, and with the professors, that would be very difficult to do to replicate anywhere else other than Bloomington, Indiana. Very
true. So now, what are your predictions for how the specialty master's market will evolve over the next 3 to 5 years? Will we see equivalent demand for these degrees? Will the demand increase? Will it flatten out?
So I was looking at the numbers earlier, and from our applicants from fall 2016, which was 5 years ago, to the class that we brought in this year, our applications grew 123%. So that should give you an indication of the trend. Now, our class size really hasn't changed a whole lot in the last 3 or 4. There has been some measured growth, but we are at our largest class was 140. This year we are at 139. At some point, we will grow a little bit more. Our long-term goal is to get to about 170 students or so, but it's going to be a slow growth. Although we are seeing a lot of demand, obviously, from the applicant side, we are not allowing that to impact the size of the program at this point.
Right. So now, what advice do you have, Bipin, for applicants who want to choose the program? How can they tell it's right for them and what they expect out of their careers?
So, as you asked me earlier, do I have to learn programming, right? A lot of students equate information systems with programming or fixing computers. And at the end of the day, for the most part, we don't do either one of those things. Right? So programming is something that is necessary, and we teach it because programming is the best way to teach problem solving. Programming is the best way to teach logic. Programming is the best way to look at how do you take a problem, how do you decompose it, and then how do you design a solution. And of course, if you work in information systems, you are going to have to manage teams of programmers, and we've never done that. You would not have credibility. So one of the things I tell students is, if you think about a continuum, where on the one end, you are doing the hardcore technical work, the system implementation work, and at the other extreme, you are doing strategy work. Our students, our alums, actually span that entire gamut, with the large majority being somewhere in the middle. So if you are somebody who wants to go out and actually work a lot more with people on change management, right? Technology introduces so much change in an enterprise that that in itself is a very specialized function, and we have alums that do that, right? So, or you could go into understanding technology strategy, or you could go into risk strategy, making sure that things like Internet of Things or AI don't create undue risks in the organization, or even looking at some of the social justice issues around technology. So for students, what is important to understand is, although you're coming in and actually getting a lot of depth in information systems, from a career standpoint, our expectation is that you would combine your undergraduate degree, which is whatever your passion was coming out of high school, with what you learn in the MSIS program. And together, that becomes the foundation from where you launch your career.
Makes sense to me. And we do know, I think there's no question that technology will assume even a greater importance in all of our lives. It's not going to get less important because it's moving so quickly with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And frankly, I think that businesses by and large have lagged in their smart adoption of technology to help with smart decision making.
And if you look at a lot of the statistics that are coming out about digital transformation, and the last couple of years, there's been a lot of articles written about why digital transformation fail. And a lot of it has to do with the leadership of the organization not fully understanding the change that technology is going to bring to the table. So we are on the end of providing the talent that can do all of this. And businesses and COVID-19 and everything that transpired with the pandemic really helped businesses understand that there is a long way to go in terms of digitizing their capabilities. And our students really form the talent pool that can help them get there.
And I'm imagining that your admissions staff could help connect would-be applicants with some of your alums who'd give them a real, honest appraisal of what they went through and how they benefited from the program, right?
Absolutely, and we do that all the time. And we also tell students that if you are interning somewhere in your junior year and you're thinking about continuing on, we might even be able to find an alum of the MSIS program where you're working. And we've also had our alums take prospective students out for coffee chats in the summer all across the world. So we're absolutely happy to connect, and we're very fortunate that we have an alumni body that will pretty much be excited to do something like this and share their experience in the MSIS program.
Terrific. Bipin, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, John.
All right. That's Bipin Prabhakar, who is the chairman of the Information Systems graduate programs at Indiana University's Kelley School of Business. If you're interested in the MSIS program, give them a ring. Check out the webpage on the Kelley School of Business. It describes all about it. Talk to alums about the program and let them share their experiences with you and how they benefited from the degree. And we think it's a great opportunity to really advance your career in a field that will never disappear. You're not going to be replaced by a robot, I can assure you, with this degree. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching our Fireside Chat.